Hello everyone, welcome back to lecture 15, which is about world prefab or character prefabs. How can we shrink the avatar size? How can we modify the character in the scene without touching any code? You can see here in the game view, we have a very tiny avatar which is set to 0.3. And if I revert it back to normal, you can see that this is the actual scale of the avatar. But if you want to change it to 0.2, for example, you can make it this tall, okay, at this scale. But how do we change this before we enter the play mode? Now, if I exit the play mode, and in the left corner or the left side in the project, in the assets, I will create a folder, and I'm gonna call this folder prefab override. You can call it whatever you want, but I prefer to call it prefab override, since we are overriding the existing prefabs that we have in the scene. Now, if I right click and create and then Highrise, in here I have scene variant and world variant. Now, if I click on scene variant, the scene variant has the player character controller, which has the move indicator, and then there's a player character spawner which has the player character prefab. Now, what are those? The world scene is basically, let me just show you real quick. If I go to Highrise, world settings, and in the project settings in here, that scene prefab is set to the world scene, which has these by default. And if I select it, it navigates me to the world scene that's inside the package. And look, if I select it, you can see that's all grayed out, and root and prefab assets open for full editing support. I cannot edit it directly from here because it's generated by the package. So what we did here is we created a variant of that world scene, and now we can edit however we want. And if I click on use this prefab in here, you can see scene prefab, use. You can see here that this changed to world scene variant, and now whatever changes we make in here will be applied to the project. We can do the same with the world if you want to change anything related to the world. For example, if I go to prefab override, right click, create, Highrise, and then world variant, you can see if I select the world variant, you can change the general chat. For example, if you want to have a different voice channels, or you don't want to enable voice, and you can set the default channel to wherever you want, and then enable proximity chat. Again, you will only be able to change these if you set this prefab as default. So click on use this prefab, and now this is changed. Now whatever we make changes to the world variant or the world scene variant will be applied to the actual game. Okay, now we don't need this page anymore, so I can close it. And now let's start with, before we start with the avatar, let's start with the general chat. You know how we have different general chat, or we have like different channels? You can customize them from here. You can enable and disable voice proximity. You can enable voice or disable voice. You can set the default channel for whatever you want. For example, if 2 is going to set to the second one, if 1 is going to set to, I think it's priority. And then you can change the voice channel name if you want to. Okay. Now that's done, let's head back to the world scene, which is the most important one right now. Now you can see here that we have a player character prefab. If I click on it, it will also navigate me to the project, right? But we want to create this player character. So if I select this player character, you see that it's still grayed out because this is a prefab asset. So we'll have to find the actual player character, and it's the human ID character, which is, this one doesn't have an ID. Actually, we can just use the player character. So let's just use the player character. What I want you to do is just drag this and go all the way up to the prefabs override. Put it in here, scroll up, and then go back to the world scene variant. And now we can change this with this. So we can drag the player character. Oops, I'm sorry. So drag the player character. Oh my, I don't want to drag it into the into the scene. So player character, and put it in the player character spawner, just like that. Okay, or you can just select it here, and you can find it in the assets. That's done. Now if I select the player character, you can see here that I can edit the player character. So in here, I can set the scale to whatever I want. So let's say I want to put the scale to 0.4 or 0.5, and then you can change the speed of the player. You can also change the outfit if you want, but let's, for example, set the speed to 8, something like that. And you have a bunch of different stuff that you can um, change if you decide to, but I am okay with that. I'm going to hit play, and I'm going to see what it's going to look like. So you can see my avatar is smaller, and my avatar is way faster. Look at that. So that's basically okay. So that's basically it for the avatar and how to create prefabs, how to override prefabs in the world scene and the world and the player character. Now remember that this applies to everything. You can even choose select a custom sound for the long press or the footstep run, and for the player character as well. Again, the player character is the same. If you want to change the player character, pet character, so if I select the pet character and move it all the way up, put it in the prefab overrides, and then go back to the world scene variant, and then I don't want to put it inside the scene, so I'm going to select the game view and just put it here. And then the pet character, we can also let's say we put it at 5 scale, okay? And then just hit run. Oh, I forgot, we don't have a pet on this account, so let me just log into my account. Okay, so I logged into my other account, and you can see now that I have a huge pet, and I'm tiny, and then there's like this pet that's way bigger than me. Anyway, this is how it's done if you want to mess around with this, because the next game jam, I'm recording this video before we announce the game jam, but the next game jam might be related to something like that, so it's better to, keep learning and practicing with all the different scenarios. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in the next lecture.